Do you feel everything that others feel and it's slowly killing you from the inside? If you just thought, finally, someone understands, you're not crazy. Carl Jung discovered that this is the clearest sign of psychological death by hyperempathy. Only 2% of people understand what I'm about to reveal in the next few minutes. And this will change your life forever. And it doesn't stop there. You're like an emotional sponge that never gets wrung out. You absorb everyone's pain until you're drowning in feelings that aren't even yours. You walk into a room and immediately feel the tension, the sadness, the anger, as if someone injected it directly into your bloodstream. Your nervous system is like a radio stuck on every station at once. You can't turn off the static of other people's emotions. You're the friend everyone calls during their 3 a.m. breakdown. You're the family therapist who never got a license. You're the emotional dumpster where everyone throws their garbage feelings. But here's the knife that twists deepest. You give so much of yourself away that you're running on empty, yet you feel guilty for even thinking about your own needs. You're like a broken ATM that keeps dispensing money even when the account is overdrawn. You can't watch the news without your heart shattering. You can't scroll social media without carrying the weight of strangers' suffering. You're not living your life. You're drowning in everyone else's. Carl Jung knew something about this that 99% of therapists don't understand. What Jung discovered will shake you to your core. Your hyperempathy isn't a spiritual gift. It's psychological shrapnel from childhood war. You were programmed like a computer virus to prioritize everyone else's emotional temperature while your own soul froze to death. Jung called this the persona of the savior, a psychological straitjacket you wear that screams, "I only exist to fix broken people." But here's the truth that cuts like a scalpel. This persona is a parasite feeding on your authentic self until there's nothing left but an empty shell wearing a martyr's mask. You learned that love means bleeding for others. You learned that your value is measured in how much pain you can swallow without choking. You became an emotional vampire's dream meal, an endless supply of energy with no expiration date. Your hyperempathy isn't evolution. It's a survival mechanism that's now killing the very person it was designed to protect. You're not a healer. You're a hostage. You're not compassionate. You're codependent. You're not empathetic. You're emotionally enslaved. The people who benefit from your emotional slavery will gaslight you into believing that boundaries are selfish because they need you chained to their drama. They turned you into their personal emotional life support system. This isn't your fault. This is systematic psychological conditioning that would break anyone. Your nervous system was hijacked in childhood by narcissistic adults who needed you to be their emotional shock absorber. You were trained like a circus animal to perform empathy on command. Jung understood that people like you develop what he called dissolved boundaries. You literally don't know where your pain ends and theirs begins. Your identity melted into being everyone's savior because that was the only way to survive emotional chaos as a child. You were taught that love equals sacrifice, that caring means suffering, that your worth depends on how much of yourself you can burn to keep others warm. You became an emotional martyr before you even knew what the word meant. But here's what Jung discovered that will set you free from this prison. The answer lies in what Jung called individuation, learning to separate your emotional thermostat from everyone else's. This isn't about becoming a heartless robot. This is about developing what Jung termed boundaried compassion, feeling with people without becoming them. Think of it like being a skilled lifeguard versus someone who drowns trying to save every person in the ocean. Both care deeply, but only one survives to actually help. If you're feeling like someone finally sees your invisible wounds, you're not alone. Thousands of people in this community have been emotional slaves just like you. If this is hitting your soul like lightning, help me by subscribing to the channel. This is how this healing community grows. And this is how more people escape the prison of hyperempathy. Carl Jung discovered that healthy empathy is like having emotional bulletproof glass. You can see the pain clearly without letting it shatter you. The difference between empathy and hyperempathy is like the difference between a skilled surgeon who can operate on wounds versus someone who bleeds every time they see blood. Jung identified the psychological pathway out of this emotional hell. Stage 1. Shadow integration. You must face the terrifying truth that your hyperempathy is actually a form of unconscious control. You believe you're so powerful that you can save everyone, so responsible that everyone's pain is your burden to carry. This grandiose savior complex is your shadow, the part of yourself you've never acknowledged. Your hyperempathy makes you feel superior to selfish people who have boundaries. It makes you feel indispensable, needed, special. But Jung knew this was a psychological drug that keeps you addicted to other people's drama, while your own life withers like an unwatered plant. Stage 2. Persona demolition. Jung taught that you must consciously destroy the false identity of the one who saves everyone. This persona feels like death because it's been your entire personality, but psychological death is the price of psychological freedom. You must grieve the loss of being everyone's emotional hero. You must mourn the death of feeling needed through your suffering. This grieving process is like withdrawing from an addiction, painful but necessary for recovery. Stage 3. Boundary construction. Jung called this differentiated consciousness, the ability to care without carrying, to love without losing yourself. It's like installing emotional firewalls that filter out toxic energy while allowing genuine connection. This means learning to say, I care about your pain, but I won't carry it. It means recognizing that taking on someone's emotions doesn't actually help them. It just creates two drowning people instead of one. Stage 4. Conscious empathy. Jung's final stage is learning to help from overflow, not emptiness. When your emotional cup is full, you can pour into others without depleting yourself. When you're running on empty, you're just spreading your emptiness around. This is like learning to put on your own oxygen mask first before helping others. It feels selfish until you realize that unconscious people can't help anyone. Here are Jung's specific methods for transforming hyperempathy into conscious compassion. The emotional mirror technique. Before any interaction, Jung recommended asking, am I feeling my emotions or theirs? Like checking your reflection before leaving the house, you must check your emotional state before engaging with others. If you can't tell the difference between your feelings and theirs, you're already lost in their psychological quicksand. The energy audit. Jung taught that you must become an accountant of your emotional energy. Track where your energy goes, like tracking money. Are you investing in people who grow from your input? Or are you throwing good energy after bad into bottomless emotional wells? The projection reclaim. When you feel compelled to save someone, Jung discovered this is usually your psyche trying to save yourself through them. Ask, what abandoned part of me am I trying to rescue in this person? Often your urge to fix them is your unconscious mind trying to heal your own childhood wounds. The guilt translator. When guilt screams at you for setting boundaries, Jung taught to ask, whose voice is this? Usually, it's the internalized voice of emotional manipulators who programmed you to feel guilty for having needs. Jung called this the persecution complex. You've been brainwashed to believe that taking care of yourself is a crime. The vampire detection system. Jung identified emotional vampires by one simple test. How do you feel after spending time with them? Energy vampires leave you feeling drained, confused, or guilty. Healthy people leave you feeling either neutral or energized. Your body is a better detector of toxic people than your hyper-empathetic mind. People who master these techniques report something miraculous. They become more effective at helping others, not less. When you help from choice instead of compulsion, from fullness instead of emptiness, your impact multiplies exponentially. One client told me, "I thought boundaries would make me heartless. Instead, I became genuinely helpful for the first time in my life because I was helping from love, not guilt." Divine. Modern neuroscience confirms Jung's intuition. Hyperempaths have overactive mirror neuron systems, usually developed as survival mechanisms in chaotic childhood environments. Your brain literally mirrors others' emotional states more intensely than normal. You're not imagining this. But here's Jung's revolutionary insight. Consciousness can rewire these neural highways. When you practice emotional differentiation, you're literally building new brain pathways from unconscious absorption to conscious choice. Your hyperempathy isn't a character flaw. It's a nervous system adaptation that served you once, but now enslaves you. Like a security system that was necessary during wartime, but becomes paranoid in peacetime. Jung discovered that healing hyperempathy requires treating it like post-traumatic stress, because that's exactly what it is. Your nervous system is stuck in childhood survival mode, constantly scanning for emotional threats and automatically absorbing them. The goal isn't to kill your empathy, it's to upgrade it from unconscious absorption to conscious attunement. Like upgrading from a broken radio that picks up every frequency to a high-quality stereo that can tune into specific stations by choice. When you heal this pattern, your entire reality shifts like tectonic plates. You stop being a magnet for emotional vampires because you're no longer broadcasting, "I will sacrifice myself for you." Instead, you attract people who want to grow alongside you, not drain you dry. Your relationships transform from one-sided blood transfusions to mutual exchanges of energy. Your body stops carrying everyone else's stress like a pack mule. Your anxiety plummets because you're no longer responsible for managing the emotional temperature of everyone around you. But here's the most beautiful metamorphosis. Your empathy becomes a superpower instead of a curse. You can sense what others need without drowning in their pain. You become what Jung called a wounded healer, someone who has transformed their suffering into wisdom and can guide others without losing themselves. You discover that conscious empathy is actually more powerful than hyperempathy because it comes from choice, not compulsion, from overflow, not emptiness, from strength, not codependence. Your healed empathy becomes like a lighthouse. You shine light into dark places without being consumed by the darkness. You guide lost ships to safety without abandoning your own shore. Every boundary you set, every no you speak, every moment you choose yourself, you're not just healing yourself. You're breaking a generational chain of emotional slavery that probably goes back decades or centuries in your family line. Your ancestors might have passed down this hyperempathy as a survival tool, but you get to transform it into conscious choice. Your healing ripples backward through your genetic line and forward into future generations. When you stop being everyone's emotional shock absorber, you give others permission to carry their own emotional weight. This is actually more loving than enabling their emotional helplessness. If this video found you, your soul is ready to break free from the prison of hyperempathy. That voice in your head whispering, "But what if I become selfish?" That's not your intuition, that's your programming. True empathy serves. Hyperempathy enslaves. Jung showed us the bridge between the two, and that bridge is consciousness. Leave a comment below sharing one boundary you're ready to set. Not for me, but for your freedom. When you publicly commit to your healing, you activate what Jung called the power of witnessed intention. Your journey from emotional slave to conscious empath isn't just personal healing, it's revolutionary. Every hyperempath who heals becomes proof that this prison has an exit. The next video reveals Jung's technique for healing the deepest wound of all, the unconscious belief that you're only worthy of love when you're suffering for others. Subscribe now, because your liberation journey is just beginning. Remember, you weren't born to be an emotional martyr. You were born to transform pain into power, wounds into wisdom, and hyperempathy into conscious love. The cage door is open. It's time to fly.